Hey, my name is Jack Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about the startling number of landlords that are quitting. Now, you might be a tenant who thinks that's a positive thing. Maybe you've had a bad experience with a landlord, or you have the perception that landlords are all evil people. Well, that's not always true, and it's actually detrimental to the rental market when landlords leave. So I'm going to talk about that impact, why more landlords are quitting, how many landlords actually are leaving the market, and how does it also compare to last year? Are we having more leave now than we did last year? And I'll give you an outcome, a scenario that I can show you by what's happened in Scotland already, where lots of landlords quit the market already, and what impact that ultimately had on that market. So if you're new around here, before we jump into this, do make sure you subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We're on the way to 50,000 subscribers. And by subscribing, you'll get all the latest house price news, interest rate news, property investing news, and all the legislative news as well as it happens. And let me do you one quick ask. If you could help me get some more views on this video, your part is really simple on that. All you need to do is smash like, tickle like, do something to that like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that's really helped the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. So, landlords, not very popular people. I know that. I have a channel that caters to landlords, and I see in the comments, thousands of comments from tenants saying, good, get rid of the landlords. Property shouldn't be owned by people to make profit. But ultimately what will happen if you didn't have landlords, small independent landlords, where they can be made to do certain things the right way. They can have pressure on them if the property does have a bad boiler, does have mold. What you'll ultimately end up with is these big corporates doing it. We're talking BlackRock, we're talking Lloyds, and these big mega landlords that don't get stuff sorted. That's proven already. There's already blocks of flats. There's one in Croydon, for example, where nearly all of the properties are mouldy and not anything is really being done to resolve that. So small landlords, I think, have an important part in the market, but you've got to make sure that they do things by the book. They already have fines that they can get. Councils already have a lot of powers. We talked about a landlord that wasn't following the rules last week. They had 18 properties seized off them for 5 years. That rent is going to from them, and they've still got to maintain those properties. So a lot of landlords are leaving at the moment. In fact, this year, we're expecting 93,000 properties to be lost in 2025. That's a huge loss. And at that same time, you see in the news every day, the population is growing in the UK. Now, it's not just from illegal immigration. People are living longer. Some people are separating, so they need two houses. There are various reasons why people need properties. And the rental market's shrinking while the population is growing. That's a big problem. And if you're looking for a property, ultimately what's happening because of this is rents are going sky high. Last year, rents went up 10%. This year, it's currently standing at 7%. And I believe that next year, rents will go up more than 10%, because I think you're going to have a bigger chunk of landlords leaving the market. So how many more landlords have quit than last year? Well, last year, we had 65,000 landlords quit. So you can see we're pretty much 50% up on the amount of landlords leaving the market. That's a problem. So it's accelerating at a time when the population's growing, when we need more rental stock. Now, what happens to these properties? That's a common question. Well, these properties will go to people that want to buy a property, a first-time buyer, someone that wants to buy their house, and that's good. That is positive, and that's what we want to happen. But the problem is, there's still tons more people that need to buy property, and still tons of people that want to rent. We just don't have enough properties. The government say they're going to build 1.5 million houses, but they've just sacked the housing minister, the deputy prime minister. We've got someone new in charge. Do they change anything? In leaked emails, we've seen the government, no, they've got no chance of building that 1.5 million properties. So this isn't going to help. So how many landlords are we down on total? Well, there are 200 2.84 million landlords, according to the HMRC data. Now, that's landlords that own property in their own name rather than company landlords. So that's the majority of landlords in the UK. And so just in a year, we are 6% down. 6% down in 1 year. That's not good. And that carries on. You ultimately end up with what happened in Scotland. So what did happen in Scotland? Well, in Scotland, they had a massive anti-landlord rhetoric for a number of years. They put in rent controls during the pandemic. The landlords quit. Now, in some places in Edinburgh, if you go to view a property, say you want to get a one-bedroom property, as many as 200 people apply for those properties. I have a customer for my marketing agency who they were looking for a property, and they were telling me on calls that when they were looking for a one-bedroom flat, as many as 50 people would be looking at that property like a conveyor belt at the same time. The property would have an open house for a couple of hours. And even then, if you earned a good salary, you had great references, you lived near the property and you wanted to pay the rent, it was still very hard to get the property. You were fighting to get that property. And ultimately, because of that, rents went up. So in Scotland, they put rent caps on, thinking, well, if we put rent caps on and we say you can't increase the rent by more than this percentage each year, what ultimately happened is before that, the rents skyrocketed. Then when any tenants left, that property got remarketed at a much higher rent. And in 2 years, rents went up more than 25% in Scotland. So it didn't actually help at all. The rents went up, the volume of property went down. And that's not going to help people. So pushing landlords out of this market isn't that smart. What is pushing them out? Well, you've got tax, Section 24, which means they get taxed on gross rent. They can't deduct the cost of the mortgage. You might think that's fair. In any other business, if you're a plumber, you can deduct the cost. You can deduct your fuel. You're saying for a landlord, you can't deduct the costs. If they pay 50% tax and their mortgage is more than 50% of the balance of the rent that they get, then they'd be losing money. And that's what lots of them were doing. How many of these landlords have mortgages? 57%. So 57% of landlords have mortgages on their property, and so they are hit by interest rate hikes and all of this stuff that's been going on, which is not good. So this is something that's accelerating really, really fast, and the outcomes to tenants are higher rents. That's a big problem at the moment. So we've had 10% last year, we're at 7% this year, and I think you'll get 10% next year if a lot more landlords quit. You've got limited supply. So, in bigger places, for example, London. Some of you are landlords in London. You've commented on this saying you're not getting 200 applicants like they are in Edinburgh, but you're getting 100. So imagine you want to get a property in London. It's very hard, even if you can afford it. So you're getting 100 people apply for your property, and that ultimately isn't good. And also the population is just carrying on growing. The immigration isn't stopping. People are living longer, which is good. But all of this is putting more and more strain when the government just aren't helping getting this building stuff going. They've relaxed the planning rules, but most people don't want to build when the interest rates are so high, because you build your property and no one's viewing it. The sales market is slowed down massively at the moment. So I want to highlight in this video, the point of it is saying that the amount of landlords is reducing significantly. And if you're a tenant that thinks that's good, I'd like you to reconsider that and have a look at the real data. It means your rent's going to get higher. If you want the property crisis sorted, it's not that you want landlords out the market. Actually, what you want is the government to build more properties or support people to build more properties. That increases supply, that reduces prices or stops them going up, and that would regulate your rent more than anything at all. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And do make sure you grab a copy of The Fundamentals of Property Investing. It's on flash sale at the moment for just £20. And in that, we'll teach you how to buy properties below market value, how to add value to those properties. Both those things are good if you want to be a landlord or just buy a property for yourself. We'll also teach you how to high cash flow that. Should you do serviced accommodation, HMOs? Should you use the buy, refurbish, refinance, rent strategy? We teach you all of that in more than 100 videos for a one-time cost of £20. That's on flash sale at the moment in the description, in the first comment. So do make sure you check that out. Do smash like, do subscribe, do check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.